Hello, I'm Brian, MTG Rom. Here's my good buddy.
Hi, this is Jon. I'm from CommandTower.tk.
Well, anyways, Jon and I are going to go ahead and have a quick look at each one of the 5 decks. And stay tuned right after the break.
Check it out.
And we're back here. This is our final Commander 2015 deck that we're looking at.
Yep.
The 5th one here is in blue and green colors. This is your Simic colors. And it is called Swell the Host. Now our oversized foil on this one is Ezuri, Claw of Progress.
Not looking so good since the last time we saw him.
He looks a little bit infected, Jon.
He's...
So anyways, let's look at the commander or the general.
Sure.
That comes with this particular Swell the Host.
Well, Ezuri is 2, a green and a blue for a 3/3.
He is an elf warrior, if that matters to you.
Elves are one of the stand-up tribes in the game. Whenever a creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you get an experience counter, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you put X +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control, where X is the number of experience counters you have.
Our secondary one, a new card here.
This is Kaseto, the Orochi Archmage. Now, interesting to note, the Kamigawa snakes are a little different than you might consider a snake to be. I don't know why evolving into a bipedal form got them more appendages than a regular thing, but Kamigawa snakes have 4 arms for some reason.
Which is kind of freaky.
But they're cool. This deck has actually a fair number of snakes in it. If you wanted to push for a snake theme, you could probably do that with this, although you would need to get your hands on some of the Kamigawa block stuff that helps snakes and things like that.
Yeah.
But there are definitely some snakes in this deck, and this guy benefits snakes. Target creature for a blue and a green can't be blocked this turn, and if it's a snake, it gets +2/+2 until end of turn.
Okay, our third commander.
We are taking a look at Prime Speaker Zegana.
This particular card, though, she will certainly be coming in and looking to pile a whole bunch of counters on her. In the past, when I've played Prime Speaker, I played her mostly for all the cards I could be drawing. And you know what? At turn 6 in a game of ADH, to reload your hand, that's a pretty sweet effect.
Well, yeah, she puts counters on herself equal to the greatest power among other creatures you have, and then draws cards equal to her power when she comes into play.
All right, so those are our 3, our primary, tertiary, secondary commanders. Let's look at some of the fun stuff that we've got going on here.
Well, we have all the new cards here. There's quite a few interesting pieces in this. There's some examples of Living Weapon, which is a mechanic returning from New Phyrexia. There's some examples of the Myriad cards that are new amongst all of these. But there are a few that really, above all else, I think kind of focus on how you want to go about playing this deck. So I thought I would represent those over here. So the first one I want to look at is Ezuri's Predation. This is a really interesting card. So this is an 8-mana sorcery, so not cheap to play by any means. But for each creature your opponents control, you put a 4/4 green beast onto the battlefield. And then each of those beasts fights a different one of the creatures. So what's interesting about that is 4/4 is a fairly large damage point.
It could be.
You have the potential there to basically wipe the board on everyone else's field and leave yours up.
Yeah.
And anything that survives that is going to be damaged pretty heavily by this card.
Okay, we're going to have a look at another one. Here's another green spell. It is Verdant Confluence. And as we've discussed before, there is a confluence in each one of the 5.
This is the green one. Again, this one is a sorcery.
A pretty high-costing sorcery,
This is I believe, the most expensive of the 5.
I think so.
Again, choose 3, and you can choose the same mode more than once. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand, or search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library.
Wow.
The modes here are really interesting.
I'm looking at a potential ramp into something really quite huge.
Mm-hmm. So for 6 mana, you can do anything from search for 3 lands, which is a big deal.
Next one up, it is a instant.
Yes, this is Synthetic Destiny, which is a really interesting card. So you exile all creatures you control, and at the beginning of the next end step, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal that many creature cards. You put all the creature cards revealed this way onto the battlefield, and then shuffle the rest of the revealed cards into your library.
Wow.
So what's interesting about this is this deck has kind of a token sub-theme. You're going to be wanting to construct a board state based on little guys and bring them out, but it's not light on creatures. There are a fair number of creatures in this deck outside of that.
Right.
And what's interesting about this card is that you can turn the creatures you've put out through the use of token generation into bigger, more powerful things on the board.
And another one. Here is a particular land which is not shared between the other 4 Commander 2015 decks. This is Command Beacon.
This is the only new land in this set of decks. And what's interesting about this, it only taps for colorless. It's not like a command tower that taps for any color. So you're not getting the value out of doing something like that. It's more for the secondary effect, which is tap it and sack it and put your commander into your hand from the command zone. Now, why would you want to do that, you say? You can cast your commander from the command zone. What's the point of that? If your commander has died 3 or 4 times, the command tax is very large. For a lot of these things, you know, like this guy starts at 4. If he's died 3 or 4 times and you're adding 2 to him every time on the back of that, you know, you're looking at upwards of 8 or 10 mana very quickly.
Yeah.
So,
what else do we have?
Well, there's a couple of cards that were previously printed. These are reprint cards, but there's something that I really feel like we should take a quick look at because they're both on theme for this deck, but they both go about things a little bit differently.
Okay, the first one up, Forgotten Ancient. It's a 4 cast cost, 3 and a green for an 0/3, and it's in an elemental. What's happening here?
Well, whenever a player casts a spell, any player at the table, you put a +1/+1 counter on Forgotten Ancient. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can move any number of +1/+1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. So any other creature that's out on the field, you can be like, well, I'll give 3 to him and 2 to him, and I'll put 3 over here, and you can do, or you can take them all and dump them all on one guy. It's
perhaps something that's got trample or evasion, or help your buddy swing in if you like playing the politics
side. A lot
side.
of options. And the second thing I thought we should take a quick look at is Bane of Progress. This card is actually from a previous Commander build. So it's 6 mana for a 2/2. Seems a little light, but it enters the battlefield. You destroy all enchantments and artifacts, and then he gets a +1/+1 counter for each permanent destroyed this way. Well, another thing I want to point out as well is that with the introduction of the basic land wastes in the new set,
Right, you are.
there are so many new possibilities for artifact-based decks. Because colorless mana is now available on a basic land, that is a huge deal for a lot of people. And a lot of people are wanting to build very heavily oriented artifact and colorless build decks. And this deck, this card specifically, can eat up anybody that's trying to build a heavy artifact-based engine.
Creeping Corrosion on a stick, perhaps.
It's massive board wipe for artifacts and enchantments, and a guy that gets huge. There's really nothing wrong with that card at all.
And lastly, as we were flipping through earlier with some of the tokens, 10 double-sided tokens, you might say, well, it is a green-blue deck. What on earth is going on with here? Really briefly now, this is interesting.
Why is there a red dragon in a blue-green deck?
People are asking.
That is because of this card, Day of the Dragons, which is, again, a reprint. This one is from Scourge, which is from a while ago now. When Day of the Dragons enters the battlefield, you exile all creatures you control, and then you put that many 5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying onto the battlefield. And when this leaves, you sacrifice all dragons you control, and then return all the exiled cards to the battlefield under your control. This could be a finisher.
Absolutely beautiful inclusion in this particular build.
Very off the wall. Not a lot of people expect it, but it's one of those cards that can really win games.
I like it. Anyways, that is the blue-green Swell the Host Commander 2015 deck. I'm liking what I'm seeing.
I am too.
Great set, Wizards.
Thank you very much. Really good stuff.
Look for other videos.